Yesterday we had discussed agriculture, and I was just wondering when the discussion was on innovation system. We had a couple of presentations in agriculture, and I was wondering various facets of agriculture that we could capture. And today, when I saw the list of speakers, I thought the sector is still diverse in the kind of options that we would have to capture. Because if you see in agriculture yesterday, we discussed both the production related innovation system and the delivery. In health sector, the layers of differences are much more deeper. You have indigenous strength, you have indigenous practices, as Dr. Malhotra mentioned. We have areas in which we have now tried to link it up with the IT, as Indrajit mentioned. And we also have the ongoing delivery mechanisms, which we heard from Sundar. What I'm trying to do here is to see how this whole new level of innovation in which the so-called BPOs of pharmaceutical sector have moved up the value chain on the higher trajectory and are likely to contribute. But this is only one segment of the larger project that we have at RIS to look into various facets of innovation system. And we are trying to see how pharmaceutical system, particularly access to medicine question, can be addressed. One component of it is of course delivery. But another dimension is that what has been the priority of our pharmaceutical research, and this is an important dimension, because if we see the chemical molecule-led research which we saw in last 30 years, particularly after the 1970 Patents Act, through which we could ensure India being a major power in the globe, particularly with the generics strength. Now, with the biosimilars and biologics coming on the radar, are we prepared for the game? And what kind of new options our companies would have, apart from, of course, selling of whatever establishments they have. So what I'm planning to capture today is largely to contextualize this new R&D dynamics which is emerging up with biologics. We are trying to see to what extent our firms are prepared, and this is part of a study which I did when I was at Yale last year. We tried to do a survey of BPOs, so-called CROs in Indian pharmaceutical sector. There are 56 CROs which we covered for this study, and we tried to interview them and come out with their priorities and try to capture 2 case studies which I would capture in whatever 1 or 2 slides. So trying to see how biologics has emerged as a major area, and to what extent the new thrust in innovation is to kill the whole scope that is there for generics after 20 years or 18 years time period to come up off the patent drugs, and trying to see if the biologics is going to be the new terminator in the realm of pharmaceuticals. So why and how US multinational corporations which are engaged in pharmaceuticals are trying to in a way insulate this infusion of knowledge that is there in the upcoming challenges in the health sector. Biologics, as we see, comes up with a major challenge that is there for the Indian generics area. We are trying to see how this is going to block the prospects of new drugs which might come up from the sectors which are hitherto dominated by the generics, and to what extent this would influence the possibility of new products from the country. So if we see the kind of trajectory that we see in the value chain for our farms, we try to see and place them the CROs, which are of actually of two categories we can place them in. One is, of course, the CROs which are trying to go up the value chain and trying to come up with their own molecules and trying to enter with their own entities with the clinical trials at various stages. And there are a couple of CROs which are doing whatever business they are getting from the multinational corporations. So we try to see that after basic research, they enter into multidisciplinary applied areas, then producing prototype, and then clinical trials and the usual step that they follow. There we try to see the CROs which have emerged in India also follow a sort of path dependency model in which IT as a founding strength for them is an important dimension. Public allocation for medical biotechnology, of course, we see the plan documents that there is an increase, of course. Indrajit mentioned that there is scope for more, and he gave example of US, in which they have allocated almost $20 billion last year. There is a scope for us to link up, and in the 9th 5-year plan, then subsequently in the 10th 5-year plan, the allocation for IT health sector has gone up. So you find more and more IT firms entering in health data handling. We also find that the companies which have entered and or have floated their own CROs, their number has also gone up, whether it is DRL or Vocard, Nicholas Peramal, Cadilla and Bexy, all floated their own organizations dealing with the business of CROs. So new startup CROs are there, and there are established generic firms which are also trying to develop strength in this area. We picked up two companies for our case study to establish the point that the firms have really gone up the value chain. So Jubilant Biosystems and Suvan Life Sciences are the two companies which we found have gone up in this value chain. The Jubilant Biosystems started as a biochemical firm which was gradually entering in bioinformatics area, trying to undertake their own research and some sort of longitudinal studies, trying to see in what area they can really contribute to in, but got some 7 patents in this area. Suvan, which is, and now their product has entered in clinical trial stage 2. Suvan Life Sciences started as clinical trial company. Their drug is already in the phase 3 trials. They initially, of course, filed a new drug application with Drug Controller of India, and are trying to see how their product moves in. But for first 5 years, the company worked as a CRO for Pfizer. Now, just a couple of weeks back, I heard that they are trying to sell off the clinical trial 3rd stage product to back to Pfizer. But if any support is provided, of course, it requires huge resources for smaller companies to get through all the stages of clinical trials. But the point is that our companies do have strength to move up, which was initially doubted by many commentators in this area. So what about accumulation of technology capabilities in rest of the industry? And I was just thinking if the case studies that we picked up can we generalize from there. Of course, India has now a turnover of almost $100 million in the CRO industry. There are 156 CROs in total in India, which have huge concentration across Bombay, Pune corridor or Bangalore, Hyderabad corridor. So at these two places, this concentration is there, the huge number of firms, but do we have generalized successful models there? And we try to see how and to what extent they can really work in. There are two major questions which I face. Exhaust the generics line that are available to exploit opportunities in emerging markets in India and abroad? Would our firms be based and would they be able to leverage this advantage that they have in terms of scale of economies that are possible? How is the state helping the dynamics? So there we come back on sectoral system of innovation, in which we try to see to what extent sectoral features are there in this biopharmaceutical sector. There is, of course, now a separate department, but a Department of Biotechnology also is interested to help them. So are these sectoral entities really helping? So to what extent state is promoting this kind of innovation? As I said, Suvan is already struggling for further funding from the government to come up and face all the high costs that it would have to face in terms of clinical trials. So funding research in public labs on biotech is just one dimension of it. But largely we have to deliver the products, and the products are coming from startup firms. The National Technology Board doesn't provide you enough resources which are sufficient to steer through the high capital costs that the firms require to go through all the clinical trial stages. So is that sufficient? That's the question. There are, of course, programs like Nimitli and others, where again you do not get sufficient funding. There is funding, I don't deny that, but that's not enough. And are the companies really well prepared? Leave aside the successful cases, but how many out of 156 are to go up the value chain? That's the question. And they again, the question is the right kind of human resources that are required by CROs. And when I was interviewing people at Suvan, they were saying that we are not getting enough people who can really lead the postdocs who are required to steer through this process of moving up the value chain is a major proposition. So coming out of that CRO or BPO psyche that is there in the system is a difficult proposition, and that's where the challenge for India is in terms of moving up the value chain in biopharmaceuticals. Of course, there are issues where we need to pay attention at, which is in terms of harmonization and streamlining of the regulatory issues. Mashelkar committee report had a full section on the kind of attention that we need to pay at this emergence of biopharmaceuticals, and the Drug Controller of India has to look at it in a different context altogether, so that we promote this strength and come out of the larger global challenge that we face with the position that multinational companies are taking at with the support of the US administration to block any kind of commercialization of biologics. So we need to address that and develop indigenous strength in this area. Then of course is the question of ethics related to it, because there are whole sort of challenging areas in which biologics may enter in. The idea of moving up the value chain, and is Indian pharmaceutical industry prepared and ready to move on that? I already mentioned in the beginning that they are selling off quite easily in terms of entering into other areas. But there are these startup companies who are short of resources but are prepared with whatever manpower they have. There are expatriates who have moved in, have floated their own company, but are struggling with the resources. So we have a challenge, which I said is just like Terminator entered in pharmaceutical. There are these CROs which are prepared to enter in. We can see that they can move up the value chain and demonstrate their ability to see in what way there may be a marked departure from the various streams that we have seen of the emergence of pharmaceutical industry in India. I think my time is going to be up. I would not give more time to it. But the key question that I think we face now is that are we prepared to catch up with the challenge that we face now in terms of drug development, given the kind of limitations which are coming in, not only from the global regime, because we fought it at WTO, but the kind of bilateral regimes which have come up over the years, they are trying to stifle the growth of this new area, where of course now with India, Brazil, South Africa partnership, we have launched on 3 diseases a sort of initiative to develop options through biologics. But that would take its own time, and the capabilities that are there in Brazil and South Africa, and then tapping them in a way which is commercially acceptable to all the entities is a major challenge. I would stop there. Thank you.